Hi friends, I'm Banafshe Rahbar, and in this video I'm going to share my mini story, The Secret of an Enchanted Forest, with you all. So hope you enjoy it. Episode 1. Isabella loves her village, set deep in a humid area of the country. But the nearby enchanted forest casts an arc-shaped shadow over her homeland. The villagers believe that the forest is controlled by demonic forces in the bodies of some creatures called screamers. Many people have been lost to the woods and none could escape. All became enchanted and turned to another screamer. It seems that they're gathering an army of dead. The villagers depended on a wizard, the Tagran, to protect them from the forest's dark magic. However, his hope comes at a terrible price: sacrifice. The whole village and all the plantations, which are used for cultivating some plants and trees consisting of oranges, grapefruits, sour lemons, etc., are surrounded by magical stakes. With the command of Tagran, the thorn of the black rose was located on top of each stake that only grows on certain days of the year. Although the black petals are toxic and can kill the strongest men with a touch, but thorns are flawless protectors of the village. Tagran keeps saying that the magic used in building the stakes is a divine gift from the Lord of Lights and will protect them from every enchantment if the villagers do not break the rules. Isabella was walking through the alley near home with her dearest friend Martha. The two 16-year-old girls were always asked to do the shopping. This time, the mothers asked them to get kerosene because the nights are getting colder than before. The villagers are expecting a terrible winter and saving supplies to survive. Martha said in a horrified tone, "Did you hear the rumors? We are not protected anymore. The time has come. I fear who will be picked at the next choosing by Tagran." How terrible it is to be superstitious. I cannot tolerate this bloody mess anymore. We are only losing a people in these damned sacrifices, brave Isabella said in an angry tone. Martha: "Last night, screamers broke the rules which they were promised not to. They attacked a shepherd while he was out at night and butchered a cluster of his cows. Their bodies were all torn into pieces, and the odor of their flesh is everywhere. The man is not found yet. Do you think he's now a screamer? Or they only served him as their delicious dinner?" Isabella: "Don't talk like that, girl. We need to do something. I'm certain there is a way. Yearly sacrifices are not the answers anymore. It is crystal clear that screamers are creatures without emotions. All the thing they do is wrecking, slaughtering, and gathering an army of dead." Martha: "The last time the Tagran picked that little innocent girl for sacrificing and opened the huge gate during night, he sent her to the enchanted forest like an animal. He told everyone that she was picked by the Lords of Lights, as always. The next day, People found her mother hanged herself with a loop in the middle of her home. Poor woman, she couldn't tolerate her innocent child's death for nothing, so she committed suicide. Isabella was worried about the future of her village. She was keep thinking till sleeping that who will be the next. Her conscience and bravery prevent her to stay silent and believe Tagrin's tricks like other superstitious villagers. She was always different from childhood. Who knows, maybe she's the savior. Anyway, the sacrificing night is coming. Episode 2. The night had come eventually. All the villagers congregated in the main square and were waiting for Tagrin's arrival. All of them were silent and stiff in their nice clothes and braided hair, watching the road because they were going to obey the commands of lords and their wizard. There were no signs of Tagrin yet. Wild, scary fantasies ran in Isabella's curious head. After waiting a while, he came hurriedly in an abrupt move, not from the road at all, but he just stepped straight from the dome of his long tower to the square. Everywhere was illuminated by his glamour. Tagrin wasn't like any man of the village. He should have been old with grey hair and beard, because he had been living in his mysterious tower 100 years. But he was tall, straight, beardless, and of course young. His clothes were fancy that could have fed a family for a year. Suddenly, he exclaimed in an articulate tone, "Let's start it." He walked and walked through the lines of villagers for almost 5 minutes. Then he paused, looking at Martha, Isabella's dearest friend, the way he hadn't paused for any of the rest of villagers. "What is your name, you little girl?" "Martha, my lord." "Silence. She is the one we are looking for. May the Lords of Lights decide for her destiny. She will save us, or she'll die tonight in the sacrifice." Isabella could not believe that mischievous Tagrin chose her friend. This absolutely made her inflamed, that she tried to attack Tagrin with almost nothing. Her parents prevented her to protect their daughter because human sacrifice was one of the consequences among the villagers and the wizard. No one could disagree with the rules of refuse them. The crowd dispersed and everyone returned to their homes. Poor Martha, what will happen to her? Isabella thought. She couldn't witness Martha's death, and if Tagrin sends her to the Enchanted Forest tomorrow, the number will be up. Isabella cried herself to sleep, the one who changed the seas. In her dreams, she was in a weird place, an audible voice echoing repeatedly, "Black Rose calls." It felt so real that forced her to wake up in the dusk. The voice whispered in her ears again and again from the north, the exact location of the enchanted parts of the jungle. The fearless Isabella followed the voice through, although it was extremely dark everywhere, through an indirect pathway. Suddenly, her skirt got stuck in the branch of a large tree which seemed magical. Her heart was beating like an earthquake which could destroy the whole planet. Hints of screamers everywhere. Isabella covered her eyes with her palms that were full of terror, and a huge screamer was standing right in front of her, with the rest of them standing behind. "Who are you?" the screamer said in a strange tone. Isabella was a fearless girl, but not that much to talk to a screamer. She opened her eyes and thought, "This is the end." But as soon as the huge screamer looked at her eyes, he got down on his knees to show loyalty. Every one of them did the same. "Sorry, my lady," the screamer said, and he helped her to remove the magical branch. They all left then. Isabella couldn't just believe her eyes. Was it an illusion or something? She thought. Oh, the voice again. The black rose calls, the black rose calls from the north, where she was supposed to go. Episode 3. After hours of walking, exhausted and confused, brave Isabella found herself near the edge of the enchanted forest far from the village, with majestic hills crowding close to where she was standing. Everywhere was unnaturally quiet for an afternoon like that. Although it didn't take too long to break the walls of silence with a noisy breeze from the north, the habitat of the black mysterious roses. With long and quick steps, she tried to find the pathway to the roses. "Finally, there you are, you magical creatures," Isabella shouted. They were all enclosed by thorny plants which prohibited any access to them. She moved closer to take a look at them. Suddenly, the rough breeze started and wanted to throw her back to the forest, whereas she resisted in order to find the truth. Why did the black rose call then? She thought. The more she moved close to the roses, the less she reached, as if they were supposed to conceal something. Isabella thought that her bones are going to smash into pieces because of the magical breeze pulling her back to the enchanted forest. She felt like a feeble little girl and shouted, "Help! Somebody help me, please!" And a strange enchanted creature appeared from the sky looking like a big reptile with long legs, wings, ears, and pale dark brown skin, same as what her father used to describe in ancient stories and fairy tales before. It was a Jackulus. The Jackulus is a small mythical serpent or dragon. It can be shown with wings and sometimes has front legs. It is also sometimes known as the javelin snake. It was said that the Jackulus hid in the trees and sprang out at its victims. The force of it launching itself at the victim led to the association with javelins. Luke also describes the attack of the Jackulus in the Pharsalia. He explains that it is the wound caused by the Jackulus hitting the victim that causes death. The Jackulus does not kill with venom. The large creature gripped Isabella's hand with its tail, put her back on its back, and brought her to the black rose so that she could touch its petals as she was told before in her dreams. She was extremely terrified, that the only thing she could do was only halting and watching. She put one of her hands around the Jaculus's neck and held it tight in order not to fall, and finally managed to touch a petal with the other hand. As soon as her fingers touched the black petals, the breeze stopped and the roses vanished. A small shack appeared instead, right in front of her and the Savior Jaculus. It was a small shack, but there was a long wait until somebody opened the door a crack, looking out. An old lady with grey, charming eyes, same as Isabella's, was there. Isabella stared at her anxiously, without recognition. She tried to give her a little smile, but she couldn't make her mouth work properly because she couldn't even understand the magical concept. It seemed that the old lady and the Jaculus have met each other before, because the large creature was so loyal and calm in front of her. "I've been waiting for you almost a decade, Isabella, my beloved granddaughter. When you broke the enchantment of the black rose, I knew it was you. Come in and I'll tell you everything you want to know, darling," the old lady said while tears were running like a river from her eyes. They walked in the shack. Isabella looked curiously at tiny numerous old pictures that were hung up from the hall's wall. One of them caught her eyes, a picture of a husband and his wife, with their baby girl. They looked so happy together, but the young lady in the picture looked like Isabella. That almost shocked her. They didn't even look like her parents, so how can it be possible? The old lady came back with some cookies in her hands. "Who is she?" Isabella asked the old lady. "Your mother, darling. Are you ready to hear the truth?" the old lady answered. "With all my heart, grandmother," she replied. Dragontail was a peaceful place to live 18 years ago, and the residents were among the luckiest people of the era. There were no signs of crime, offense, murder, war, or lie. The man that you see in the picture is Edgar, your father. He was a memorable man of honor and leader of the whole North. Immortals' blood ran through his veins. With their power, immortals were promised to protect all creatures in the world, the human beings, dragons, screamers, wizards, witches, and everyone or everything you think. They were all loyal to immortals, and there were no news of the angry screamers or dragons. Young immortal Edgar was the dream of every girl in the North. And your mother was always a special one. She was the most kind-hearted soul that I cannot even describe. She did not care about golds and silvers at all. Finally, one day, Edgar met her in the village, fell in love with her, and they got married after months. Marriage of an immortal with a human was completely strange for everyone, but that is how love works, darling, and they have you. But you know, kind-hearted protectors of truth always have enemies, as your father had. There are always people who want to fight the truth. Tagran, oh, that lawyer wizard, and his followers wanted Tagran to rule the North. So, at the night of gratitude ceremony in our home. Tagran changed his face by magic, joined other villagers, and used the magic of fire against Edgar, his family, and all the nears and dears. He burned them alive, and the only way to end the life of an immortal is being burned by the magic of fire. I was there, Isabella, witnessing the death of my beloved ones, and you were in my hands. I took you and ran into the woods. The screamers helped us to hide with the help of magic of the Black Rose in this shack. Me, you, and the darkness. All this thing I could see. And after months, Tagran believed that he killed every last immortal, so he gave up on finding you. I will tell you how you came back to the village again after dinner. Isabella couldn't stop crying in silence with a lump in her throat, and so did her grandmother. She said, Tagran will pay for his mistake with his death. Yes, the truth will be revealed soon, darling, grandmother replied. Episode 4. Isabella swallowed a tiny piece of bread and looked down at her bowl of soup. She remembered again the terror she'd felt on seeing Tagran and said, Sorry, grandmother, I guess there is no time left for the supper. My dearest friend Martha was supposed to be sacrificed by Tagran and left in the enchanted forest at midnight. I must rescue her, meet the screamers' knights as soon as possible and prevent them from injuring her. Wait, what? You mentioned the name. Martha? The girl with golden hair and a scar on her face? Grandmother asked. Right. How did you recognize? Isabella halted for a moment and replied. As soon as Tagran began his tricks, the black myth warned the members of the enchanted forest that a girl named Martha with golden hair and a scar on her face will be the last victim. The black sky falls down upon all of us and the rest of the world, whether she dies or not. When the time comes, the destinies all turn into black by Tagran's magic in his empire, grandmother said. We need to hurry up then, Isabella shouted. Go, Isabella, go and save your friend. I will send ravens to all sides of the continent, to the shelter of immortals' alliances. I hope the dragons and golden phoenixes fly just fast enough to arrive before dawn. We also need armed forces of knights and vampires to work in defense of life, else Tagran's magic will ruin all of the world, grandmother said in a trembling tone. Isabella ran to the woods. She couldn't even see her path properly, and it would take at least 4 hours to reach the edge of the forest, right near the dragon tail. She shouted desperately, Jaculas! Beads of rain fell from the dark clouds, and cold breeze blew from the sky because of abrupt moves of Jaculas. The big creature let Isabella take its neck in a calm gesture to the edge of the forest. Isabella shouted. The dragon spread its wings and flew. Innocent Martha was completely surrounded by the screamers. They seemed to enjoy the feeling of taking revenge from Tagran and all the villagers because of what he did to their commander Edgar, the leader of immortals. The first screamer took a step to attack Martha when the Jaculas arrived. Wait, don't! Isabella cried. The huge leader of the screamers punched the attacker screamer with a fist in the face as if his stone were crumbled, and said, "No more moves. Get away from this human, all of you." His expression was as sour as vinegar. "My lady, what brought you here?" the little screamer asked in a creepy tone. "I'm afraid we have no time for details, but we need your bravery tomorrow in the war with our true enemy. We all need to hurry up because Tagrin is going to spread his black magic all over the world tomorrow and always. He's going to start from the forest, so light the trenches all around and fall back to the safe zone with us," she replied. Isabella took Martha's hand and flew to the shack of grandmother. The place was crowded as all the leaders in the continent arrived there with their strongest soldiers, a diverse population of golden phoenixes, knights, vampires, dragons, wandering ants, and blood-eyed imp groups. They all bent the knees as soon as they saw Isabella. "Tagran lured all of us. He is alive with his black magic, the forbidden one which is going to destroy the world. Tomorrow we will fight against the storms of dark injustice. His magic is an enormous obstacle for sure, but together we have the chance to win. We're gonna fight for the life of future. Tagran is the enemy, the first and the last. In the stories of our culture, we heard that enemy always wins, but we still need to fight the black magic. That is all I know. You and I won't find much joy tomorrow under the pressure of cars. We may lose lots of our dears, but we can keep others alive and defend those who cannot defend themselves. I am an immortal, promised to protect all the living creatures in the world," Isabella said. Applauses could be heard in approval of the heroine's speech. She was truly born to rule, and the war was near. Final episode. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived and everyone seemed to be looking for the first sign of Tagran's black magic. Although nobody knew for sure that the war would finish in happiness or grim misery, the sound of hope could be heard for the reason that everyone believed in their commander. No disobedience existed in her army. The fighters of Black War were bound by their belief in saving life of the world. Isabella was standing in the midst of the fighters, braver than she could ever think of. His stepfather, Philip, joined the soldiers with a group of villagers as well, standing strong shoulder to shoulder with a huge variety of magical creatures to help his beloved daughter. For the sake of the time that he raised her like she was his own daughter. "Look, the first sign! The sky is falling!" Martha shouted while she was standing next to the grandmother. Isabella caught a glimpse of Martha and could barely hear her in the noisy crowd. "The time has come! Attack the wizard and his army!" she shouted. Grandmother tried to reach Isabella before she moved to the battlefield with the knights. "All we need is to find the source of black enchanting magic to win the war. Tagran must have hid it somewhere. You need to find and destroy it as soon as possible because the magic may be spread everywhere by the end of the day. Darling, do not lose your hope even if you see the death of your dears. Saving the rest is way more important You know it better that me than me that there is no time left for mourning and distress. You are the leader. Everyone truly believes in your power. You will kill the magic. Grandmother said, with tears in her eyes, as if she had foreseen something. Isabella tried to stay calm, but her heart was crying slowly. Extremely terrifying hours of war, many corpses everywhere on the field, smell of blood, smell of death. Isabella was appalled. Targon's black magic was spreading and turned the living creatures to wild dead ones. They were attacking their own army as if someone opened the leashes of hounds. Half of the army did not even look like what they've been before. Isabella was confused and had lost herself in the midst of her half-dead, half-alive army. Find the source, she remembered and realized something unnaturally weird. Targon was not spreading the black magic, but a white dragon was. It was obvious that Targon enchanted the poor creature. The white dragon looked exactly like Draculus, as if they were siblings. Isabella flew up into the falling sky with Draculus to reach the enchanted white dragon. But Draculus could not even breathe due to the black magic as they were trying to get closer to the source, the heart of the white dragon. But the creature remained loyal until its very last breath. It grabbed the neck of the enchanted creature with its tail so that Isabella could find a chance to put the sword in its heart. She killed the black magic with the help of her loyal army and beloved Draculus. The white dragon and Draculus were both dead on the ground. She pleaded for mercy to take its life back, but too late it was. The war was over, and the enchantment killed half of the creatures in the battlefield. Isabella ran to find her dears, but she found both her stepfather and grandmother dead on the ground, the most bitter farewell for Isabella. Souls of Charlotte and Philip were in the hearts of two dragons. They were both trying to protect you, but Targon took his last revenge by enchanting the white dragon, Philip. The screamer's knight said in a trembling voice full of regrets. Isabella fell on the ground and cried as if her life was over. A heavenly voice whispered in her ears, "Darling, do not lose your hope. Stay strong even if you see the death of your dears. Saving the rest of the world, saving the life is way more important. We may lose lots of people, but we can keep others alive and defend those who cannot defend themselves." Isabella, the savior, won the war, and the world never saw such cruelties again. Done. Thanks for listening. Well, thank you everyone for listening to my mini story. This mini story is rather long for a YouTube video, so you can watch it episode by episode. And I'm sorry for my voice, I have allergies, so I'm going to write more stories and post it here. So thank you again, and bye.